question from X/Twitter from a character called Miko. If you don't know who Miko is, basically a very famous Latin American YouTuber who does basically video essays. And himself, her video essays is pretty good, although sort of a mess, but still something I do recommend. Once in a while, Miko does answer a very interesting question on her X/Twitter account. And this question is basically is Craig is a bad father, equally as bad a father than Chicken Little's father of his own IP? And that itself is a very loaded question because it's sort of hard to answer because of one specific thing, or more than one. That will be Steven Universe lore and Steven himself. Because Steven Universe lore is very unpredictable because you cannot have an answer later on that answer will be sort of kind of contradict itself next couple of seasons. And it has that sort of weird habit. A reason why it's like this is because director Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe and Cartoon Network, have sort of a power struggle behind the scenes because Rebecca Sugar wanted something and Cartoon Network wanted something else. And this is the reason why the lore is sort of wishy-washy by itself. Now, the lore has something else is sort of kind of unique. They have gaps in the lore. So you think of something, but you don't know it's the true answer because you don't have the full picture. That's also another problem to answer this question. And also, Steven by itself is another different problem because Steven is so very unique. Any answer to ask that specific question could be contradicted because how Steven is just so special that you cannot sure this is the right way to raise a specific child of the unique abilities what he actually has. And this is the reason why this question is very loaded. You don't know this is the right answer or the wrong answer. On top of everything else, everybody who comment of this question, at least good 60 or 70% agree he is a good father. Half of them is half agreeing that he is also a little bit bad, but a good father. The rest of the percentage is sort of agrees that he is a bad father. And the last percent is usually just meaning of Miku because this is the seventh time she actually posted of a bad character, but using sort of mentality of black and white. But that's not the focus here. Now, to answer this question, I have to say that no, Greg is not a bad father, equally as Rooster from Chicken Little. In fact, he's beyond a good father. He is triple S, double plus type of father who is actually self-aware that his son is so special. Whatever he does, it usually have to really think about it because he can easily affect Steven Universe himself. I have to stop here. This is the first time on my channel. My name is Recho. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, but reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. If you do, thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close of my main goal, up to 1,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People put like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Now let's start. This question is, Greg is a bad father. Now let's get started. To answer that question, how Greg raised Steven, you still have some questions you could do better, but the reason why people are sort of still disagreeing why he's a bad father is because he never had standards with Steven. He never had him have responsibilities. He didn't have enough chance to go to school, make friends of his own age. He never really sat down to understand a history of a human race, and etc. It goes on and on. This sort of reason why people think that Greg is a bad father. In a way, you kind of are right, but yet you're completely wrong because Steven is sort of unpredictable because people want him to at least send him to the doctor. And the show answer almost every single question, every single complaint in the show. For example, if he went to a doctor, there is a specific episode that Connie's mom shows Steven Universe own X-ray, and she was sort of confused because his body analogy, his skeleton, the diamond he has in the belly, doesn't really make sense to her because Steven is not human. He's half human. This is the reason why she's sort of confused. On top of this, points out her analysis of the X-ray shows that Steven can self-heal. On top of this, diamonds do not get sick. They're not programmed to get sick. And that's why it's just sort of interesting that people want him to at least go to the doctor, but that's sort of impossible because the doctor doesn't know what to do with Steven because Steven only half human. They cannot actually figure out how to fix him if they don't understand the other half. And that's sort of the major problem with that sort of mentality because the show does answer that. In fact, some people, why not send a Steven in school or at least in elementary because some people did thought about that Stephen powers manifested around his teenage or preteen years, so he have enough time to communicate and hang around with his own sort of age group, at least doing first to fifth grade, and that could be possible. But at the same time, you have to think about well, Stephen is not human. Stephen attracts diamond type of problems, the corrupted diamonds, diamond soldiers, diamonds, the chrysogen themselves, and technology from the diamond universe. All this can be attracted to Stephen, even that Stephen is not aware. If you see the show, all of them are sort of violent and dangerous. If you want a parent to be scared of Stephen, that itself is a reason why their school probably banned them, or the parents will complain he should not be in that school. On top of all this, that he could easily be bullied because how unique and different he really is. Even that today, the society people will accept Stephen, make him so special and unique. They want to talk to him, but also you have people who are jealous who actually bully him because how special he is. And top of all this, the pressure of having high scores and the pressure to be social to everyone else can easily overload Stephen because Stephen, when he activates his powers, he cannot control him because his abilities is connected to his emotions. That itself sounds so bad idea. In fact, a lot of people point out Pacific, the spin-off of Steven Universe Future, that he has sort of a crash out. And people point out, you see, this is the reason why Steven should have at least try to have a normal life because it points out Greg still has the adult parents who can actually help him raise Steven instead given to his aunts. And that itself answered by itself because the whole spin-off series, the whole point of this, or people did point out, is sort of how a mature girl who finished her main duty, but the only problem is she has so much trauma, doesn't know what to do with it or who to talk to because she or he in this case is the one who fix everybody's problems. He doesn't have something to fix. She or they will be served lost and confused, doesn't know what to do with self. In the very end, will self-destruct will not actually answer all the trauma that the main lead tried to dump out or don't know how to dump out. And that's sort of the main focus of Steven Universe Future. That Pacific scene that Steven crashed out, that was the whole point. Top of everything else, when he crashed out, Stephen asked Greg, why you not go to their grandparents and let them raise him? And it sort of answered the same question of that episode because there is a photo of him being unhappy, being out of school, in a school, even graduating, giving that sort of kind of sneak peek behind the scenes that his life wasn't perfect, especially with his parents that we don't know they were tiger parents or helicopter parents because how restricted they actually are. Of course, I am assuming because the lore of Steven Universe leaves a lot of gaps to your own interpretation. And even that is true. Let's say I'm right. Steven will be completely unhappy and doesn't know what to do after that. Because at the very end, that crash out does point out one specific thing. Steven wants to have a normal life. He wants to run away with his own problems, thinking, well, I have a normal life, I didn't have these specific problems. In a way, that's a wrong type of thinking because if he did basically live with his parents, his grandparents, and he actually had went to school with normal regular kids, the problems will always be there right next to him because he's just so unique and attracts other gem problems because his existence. And that just sort of tells you how deep this question really is. Because there are things to actually go in deeper. Because people don't like that Greg did not get sort of set of rules with Steven. He didn't have structure. But you have to point out watching the spin-off series in the original show or the games, if Greg did not have that sort of freedom, that Steven did not have that sort of confidence or understand to do responsibility in the right way because he was basically kind of going to normal school and living with his grandparents. He would never have that sort of responsibility given to him the very beginning because if you go to school you don't really have responsibility. The only responsibility you have is do your homework and study. And school are not built for kind of understand huge problems what Stephen has. In fact, you can easily say he's sort of kind of handicapped even worse if he went to school. But once again, Greg wasn't a 110% good father. Some of his methods are questionable, but yet he did get results. He did have Steven to be self-dependent. He knows what to do. This is why all the gems look up to him to see his point of view. He has that unique point of view being a human and being a gem. He has a very interesting respected because he has freedom to be responsible for himself and understand people's own emotions. That's why Greg was a good father. He sort of, I want to say, accidental, kind of knew about this. He's sort of aware he could not raise Steven with the human family he has, even that his human family, his parents, are could be horrible parents because I want to remind you, if you watch the whole series, it does lead into his whole family falling apart because his uncle reappearing, trying to kick off the crystal gem on his own shed. You also point out all the sort of questions he have issue with his own family are basically rat packs, in other words. Like he sort of comments on little things every other season, and you're wondering maybe that was a good idea not meeting his parents or showing the life of his own parents to Steven because Pi would not even help Steven his sort of situation. And that was sort of interesting because people still saying he's a bad father. He's not. I think this is the reason why his phrase lands so hard with them. Like, if there is a perfect sausage, we didn't make hot dogs. I know I messed it up. I do apologize. But that sort of phrasing, that sort of thing he says once, one episode, and just stick it to him now words, it just describes how Greg was a good father. Not a perfect one, but yet he delivered a child who is responsible, understand his situation. He knows he's the only one who can actually fix it. How he basically see everything in a different, unique way. Even that people still want him to be more responsible, but yet you cannot deny the result of Steven because how Greg sort of tackled the situation. Being mindful, some people want him at least know his Steven history, his gem culture. It's like saying learn Japanese but learn all the culture so you can tell your own son. But the only problem is there is no books, there is no Google. If you talk to the gems, there's sort of things the gems won't talk about it because they have so much trauma. Even he attempted to explain sort of crystal or gem lore to Steven, he could be legitimately wrong because he doesn't now have like books or Google to make sure he's correct. And that's sort of the issue. Like asking so much for a man who doesn't have at least a small step closer of anything that Steven does. He doesn't know how to approach it. And I think this is the reason why he have sort of, you could say, half custody to the gems himself. So they sort of balance back and forth. If the gems could not answer Steven, Greg would do. Just remember, this is just sort of a simple question that it took me a long time to answer. Now I got nothing else to say, just one question. Do you think I missed something? Do you believe Greg is a good father, bad father, or half and half? Tell me down below, let me know. I got nothing else to say, just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.